Hello everyone. I am going to report about Gestalt psychology based on Module 9. In this module, we will describe the different Gestalt principles, list ways of applying Gestalt psychology in the teaching learning process, and demonstrate appreciation of the usefulness of Gestalt principle in the teaching learning process. Gestalt psychology was at the forefront of the cognitive psychology. It served as the foundation of the cognitive perspective to learning, and it considered the mental processes and products of perception. Let us examine some pictures here. Picture number 1, listens good or evil. Picture number 2, do you see a musician or a girl's face? Picture number 3, do you see a face or two faces facing each other? These are some illustrations that challenge our perceptual skills. Now, let us analyze. What was your experience in figuring out the picture? What helped you perceive the interesting pictures? How did you go about the pictures? Now, when you look at the pictures in the given examples earlier, your mind follows certain principles of perceptions. Gestalt psychology is concerned with such principles. Gestalt theory was the initial cognitive response to behaviorisms. It emphasized the importance of sensory wholes and the dynamic nature of visual perception. The term Gestalt means form or content. Now, there are some psychologists who are behind these Gestalt theories. We have Kurt Kafka from 1887 to 1941. We have Max Wertheimer from 1880 to 1943. We have Wolfgang Kohler from 1887 to 1967 and Kurt Lewis. Gestalt psychologists Max Wertheimer, Wolfgang Kohler, and Kurt Kafka studied perception and concluded that perceivers or learners were not passive but rather active. They suggested that learners do not just collect information as is, but they actively process and restructure data in order to understand it. This is the perceptual process. Now, certain factors impact on this perceptual process. Factors like past experiences, needs, attitude, and one's present situation that can affect their perception. According to Gestalt psychologists, the way we form our perceptions are guided by certain principles or laws. Now, these principles or laws determine what we see or make of things or situations we meet. Gestalt principles. We have, I think, 6 principles of Gestalt. We have law of proximity, law of similarity, law of closure, law of good continuation, and law of good pregnancy, and law of figure or ground. Let's study law of proximity. Elements that are closer together will be perceived as a coherent object. When objects we are perceiving are near each other, we perceive them as belonging or grouped together, just like in this picture. Next, law of similarity. Elements that look similar will be perceived as part of the same form, just like in this picture. Next, law of closure. We tend to fill the gaps or close the figure we perceive. We enclose a space by completing a contour and ignoring gaps in the figure, just like in these pictures. Next is law of good continuation. Individuals have the tendency to continue contours whenever the elements of the pattern establish an implied direction. People tend to draw a good continuous line, just like in these pictures. And is law of good pregnancy. This stimulus will be organized into as a good a figure as possible. Good refer to symmetry, simplicity, and regularity. We expect certain patterns and therefore perceive that expected pattern, just like in these pictures. Next is law of figure or ground. We tend to pay attention and perceive things in the foreground first. A stimulus will be perceived as separate from its ground. Look at these pictures. It seems a beautiful girl or woman, and you can also see an old woman. This one, a fish and a bird, and these pictures. Another one is insight learning. This is a different one. Gestalt psychology adheres to the idea of learning taking place by discovery or insight. The idea of insight learning was first developed by Wolfgang Kohler, one of the psychologists, in which he described experiments with apes, where the apes could use boxes and sticks as tools to solve problems. Let us watch. In the box problem, a banana is attached to the top of chimpanzee's cage. The banana is out of reach but can be reached by climbing upon and jumping from a box. Only one of Color's apes, named Sultan, could solve this problem. A much more difficult problem which involved the stacking of boxes was introduced by Kohler. This problem required the ape to stack one box on another and master gravitational problems by building a stable stack. Observe what happened. What will happen? Yes, you got it. That was an example of insight learning. Another one, Color also gave the apes sticks which they used to rake food into the cage. Sultan, Color's very intelligent ape, was able to master a two-stick problem by inserting one stick into the end of the other in order to reach the food. That was very intelligent ape. Inside learning, in each of these problems, the important aspect of learning was not reinforcement, but the coordination of thinking to create new organization of materials. Kohler referred to this behavior as insight or discovery learning. Kohler proposed the view that insight follows from the characteristic of object under consideration. His theory suggested that learning could occur when the individual perseveres or perceives the relationship of elements before him and reorganizes this element comes to a greater understanding or insight. This could occur without reinforcement, and once it occurs, no review, training, or investigation necessary. Significantly, insight is not necessarily observable by another person. Gestalt principles and the teaching learning process. The six Gestalt principles not only influence perception but they also impact. According to Kurt Lewin from 1890 to 1947, he introduced the life space. His theory focusing on life space adhered to Gestalt psychology. He said that an individual has inner and outer forces that affect his perception and also his learning. Inner forces, which is your own motivation, attitudes, and feelings. Outer forces, this is the attitude and behavior of the teacher and classmates. All these forces interact and impact on the person's learning. Relevance of Gestalt psychology to education, according to Mario Polito, an Italian psychologist. Gestalt theory is focused on the experience of contact that occurs in the here and now. It considers with interest the life space of teachers as well as students. It takes interest in the complexity of experience without neglecting anything, but accepting and amplifying all that emerges. It stimulates learning as experience and the experience as a source of learning. It appreciates the affections and meaning that we attribute to what we learn. Knowledge is concerned as continuous organization and rearrangement of information according to needs, purposes, and meanings. It asserts that learning is not accumulation but remodeling or insight. Autonomy and freedom of the student is stimulated by the teacher. The time necessary for assimilation and for cognitive and existential remodeling is respected. The contact experience between teachers and students is given value, an authentic meeting based on sharing ideas and affection. Thank you for listening.